of Believe in the Bronx, and Mike Stanton in our Houston studios, Pete Caldera here in New York City. On this edition, Mike will be talking about Aaron Judge and some of the Yankees' injury situations, the good and the bad, and preview a bit of the upcoming Rays series. That's a big one. And we'll also do a little one-up discussion about something that happened in the 1998 season too, because I always like to get your take on 25 years later.
Sure.
Mike, I tell you, the Yankees are starting to experience something that they, probably their biggest dread on a team that has a ton of injuries, which is experiencing life without Aaron Judge right now. And we're having trouble scoring runs. Even towards the end of that last road trip with him, and now he's going to be out for a week and miss that race series too.
Yeah, this is deja vu all over again. It seems like the Yankees go through this every single year. Everybody has to go through injuries, but I'll tell you, it seems like you go back to 19. I mean, it just seems like every year that some of their key cogs end up on the IL. It's great that Harrison Bader got back in the lineup, but and that's going to help marginally, but it's not one of the big dudes in the middle of the lineup. And I heard something yesterday that kind of shocked me, that the money that the Yankees have on the IL is a higher payroll than 10 of the big league clubs, which is absolutely remarkable.
Yeah, right. And this is a team that's also playing without Giancarlo Stanton, who won't be back in their lineup until June. You're losing a lot of firepower there. Now they got Harrison Bader back, which is obviously helpful. But you've had to kind of rearrange this lineup. I mean, you've got the Willie Calhouns playing now, and you've got guys like Oswaldo Cabrera who are have to take on bigger roles in this 2023 season early, and have not really responded the way they have last year. Right now, this is not the way you want to go into a huge series against Tampa Bay with a compromised lineup against that pitching staff.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, Tampa is playing just extremely good baseball, still hands above any other team in Major League Baseball. Still, I think they still only have 6 losses on the season, and they're playing good. I actually got to see Tampa Bay just a few days ago last week, and this is a very good team. Now, it's kind of classic Tampa Bay Rays. They don't have big, names that you're going to talk sitting around the kitchen table, but they are playing extremely good baseball, especially there in St. Petersburg. So this team is legit. There's no doubt. Now, they're not going to stay this hot. They're not going to play 800 baseball all the way through the season. But I'll tell you what, with just the way they can, what really surprised me, they're going to pitch. What really surprised me was how well they're swinging the bat, how the quality of at-bats. It seems like every at-bat is a grinded out at-bat. They do not chase. You have to get ahead of them in the count. If you don't, then they're going to hit it, and they're going to hit it hard. I mean, the Astros stopped their streak of 22 straight games of home runs. Yes, that's the Tampa Bay Rays. We're not talking about the Bronx Bombers. We're talking about the Tampa Bay Rays. So, the thing is, in a situation like this, when you're missing your big dogs in the middle of the lineup, what has to take over? Well, you say, okay, well, the pitching is going to have to take over. Well, the problem is the pitching staff's been decimated also. So this isn't a situation that they are really at full force in any aspect of the team.
Exactly right. And the Yankees will also come into that series really kind of wondering who their closer is at this point. Now, right now, all indications point to Michael King. Clay Holmes, has continued to struggle at times with that sinker. In fact, he's not even throwing it as often as he had last year. Just looking at some of the numbers, Mike, from when he was an all-star, all-world closer for the first part of last year from the second half until now in 33 games, he's got a 4.5 ERA. He's averaging a walk every other outing, every other inning. It's hitting batters. He's this now I don't think his problems are as deep as they were last year. And last year he was also dealing with a bit of a back injury that was probably compromising him. But right now, I think that if you're going to have that circle of trust, it's pointing right now towards Michael King. But the other part of that is, as good as King is, I mean, he's a multi-inning weapon. You don't want to sort of lock him into that ninth. So they may have to find more avenues where he could possibly get a 4 or 5 out save.
Yeah, what's going on with Holmes is, first off, you want to make sure he's completely healthy. Because if there's a nagging issue that's going on that's causing him command, okay, you have to figure that out, and hopefully it's not another IL stint to do that. But you got to do what you got to do because he's really not that effective. You can't have a closer that just doesn't throw strikes. It just doesn't work that way. You cannot give free passes in Major League Baseball. There's not very many. I mean, you remember how the manager and how the team used to stress out when Mitch Williams was on the mound because you didn't know if he's going to put it on the corner or if it's going to go to the backstop. So with that, pitchers have to make adjustments all the time, meaning, if the sinker's not there, if he can't find the release point on the sinker, okay, let's throw some four-seam fastballs. It's a Band-Aid. You want to fix whatever the issue is, right. And it might just be a confidence issue. It might be a slight little glitch in his delivery. It could be anything, but it's kind of hard to fix on the fly in the season, especially when you're in the ninth inning. And, if you're going to be a good team, and I think the Yankees are a good team, especially once they get healthy, you got to win, 90% of the games that you go into the ninth inning winning, because there is nothing more devastating than winning a game for 8 innings and losing it in the ninth. Even for a veteran club, it can just kill morale like crazy. So, they're going to have to figure that out a little bit. He's still throwing the ball well as far as, the ball coming out of his hand, but he's got to find that release point so he can get that command.
Yeah. And, in some ways, it's a bit of a bullpen by committee when you're talking about, mixing and matching. And Aaron Boone talks about the lanes that he wants to, put these guys in to have their best success and matchups, obviously. But, you went into this season where, Holmes was going to get some 8 innings, maybe even, a piece of the 7th inning, if that's where it lined up. And you had guys that you trusted and probably still trust, to get those last 3 outs in guys like Peralta, Marinaccio, even though he's, coming off, it's his sophomore season, but, he's got the stuff and that elite changeup. It's just a matter of kind of reining in the walks, right? Because he does get a lot of ground balls. He does get a lot of swing and miss. And it's that, and you can speak to this better than anyone, how that 9th inning is different than the 7th or 8th.
Well, it really depends on the pitcher. I did some closing. There was a couple times I was the closer. Most of the time I was more of a setup man. My approach was to try and the job doesn't change, but there's been guys in all the way through baseball since we've started having closers back in the 70s and 80s that, can be dominant in the 8th inning, but they can't do it in the 9th. What is the problem? Well, the problem is the mental approach. And so, that was always my approach, was just, most of the time I was coming in with guys on base anyway. So, it really, the game was on the line. And so that was my approach. And it seemed to work pretty well for me, but everybody has to find their own avenues, because, my mental approach can't be like anyone else's because, well, it's my brain. They have to figure it out on their own. The problem when you have a team like the Yankees that come into the season with the greatest of expectations every single year is that you don't have time to figure it out. I think that's one of the reasons why the Yankees have always leaned towards veteran relievers, because you had a better idea what you were going to get. When you start having injuries like they've had and lack of performance like they've had so far this season, now all of a sudden the game plan has to change. Booney can't just, write it in ink. Who's pitching the 7th? Who's pitching the 8th? Who's pitching the 9th? It makes it a lot more stressful on him. And when you only have one arm that's really performing well, and that's King, you go, okay, how can I use him? When is the best time to use him? I like him out there for multiple innings, but maybe I need him just to go one inning. So somebody else in the bullpen is going to have to step up, because you also have to remember they've got issues in the rotation. The rotation's not giving you the innings that you need to cover for an ailing bullpen.
Right. And they
Man, that sounds bad, doesn't it? That sounds negative.
Actually, guys like Peralta and Marinaccio, they have they have held up their end. When you consider that they're still down 3 experienced arms in that bullpen, and 2 of them they're not going to get back. One they may not get back at all this year in Jonathan Loaizaga, who has bone spurs. Had those removed. They're hopeful to get him back by September. No certainty there. Lou Trevino is now about to undergo season-ending Tommy John surgery, so obviously they won't have him. And they're hoping to get Tommy Canely back around the 1st of June. He was dealing with the biceps tendonitis that he was dealing with way back in spring training. So they could add him, but that's and the other part of that, Mike, and you kind of touched on that too, is that the holes in the rotation have forced guys like Herman and Brito and Clark Schmidt, who might otherwise be contributing in that bullpen, having them to be in that rotation. And now we're hearing the latest on Carlos Rodon, that it's not the elbow, but the back situation that is further delaying him. And big question mark as to when he'll get back on a mound again, and when he can ramp up to that. He's not even close to getting in a rehab assignment.
Right. Yeah, he's still got a throwing program to go to, and you got to get healthy in order to start the throwing program. So, there is definitely some time and some boxes he has to check before he can even get back on the mound, much less get back in a big league game. And this was one of my concerns about Rodon, because this is one of the filthiest pitchers, and filthy being a positive, the filthiest pitchers in Major League Baseball when he's right. The fastball, the way it moves, the devastating breaking ball, but that's been one of the knocks, is he hasn't really been able to stay on the field. What they really need to do right here, and this is kind of what they're doing, they got to just piecemeal this all together. They have to just, tread water, which is kind of what they're doing until they can get healthy. You can't worry about what the Rays are doing. To tell you the truth, they have enough worries in their own clubhouse. That's where they need to do their not what the rest of the league is going to do. Let's just make sure that we can keep our head above water until we can get healthy. Judge isn't that far away. That's going to be a big help. Hopefully they can get Giancarlo back in the lineup. Now, all of a sudden, that can take pressure off the pitching staff by just giving you more runs to work with. But you got to tread water right now. You got to just make sure you don't bury yourself in a big, deep hole, and then you have to spend all summer trying to get out of that hole.
Right. And you mentioned Rodon with the back issue. I don't know if you ever had dealt with a back issue. That you're talking about a big guy.
Pete, I've had everything. Yes.
Right. This. I think maybe for the average man is like, well, you can deal with a back issue and get out there. This is part of the reason that the Judge is on the IL. I think at some level you're protecting assets, and you've got to protect players from themselves at some point too. Judge wanted to be in this lineup this week against Cleveland, and especially at Tampa Bay, but they didn't want to force it with the hip. Playing some games.
Well, they're always ultra conservative.
Yeah,
a lot of big league clubs are, but the Yankees, as soon as you say you're ready, you're going to get extra days. Because they don't want you to go back on the IL. It's actually a smart approach, because to tell you the truth, how big of a series is this in early May? They're the first place team. You're trying to catch them. It's a big series, but is this a series more important than the next month? Because if he comes back too soon, that hip hacks up again. Now all of a sudden, he's spending more time on the IL, and organizations have to do this all the time. They have to protect the players from themselves. The players, a lot of times, Judge is so competitive, just like most big leaguers are, that he wants to go out there at 80%, and he thinks he can be productive, and he can. But there's just always that risk of it, happening again. So you want to make sure that he's 100%, that this doesn't flare up again and you're not fighting this all the way through the summer.
Right. And it reminds me of something Luis Severino said in spring. So Luis Severino will begin a rehab assignment in Tampa this week, and he could be 2 more rehab starts away from rejoining the rotation by.
That's a big plus.
Thursday.
Another guy that, if he's healthy, this dude can shove just like anybody can. I mean, I remember for the first arm injury, it was a moral victory to foul a ball off. He was throwing hard.
Yeah.
He had the dirty slide. It was just filthy. So he's got huge upside. But when you come back, is he a guy that you can just take the reins off and, let him go? Or are you going to have to protect him a little bit? And the Yankee way is usually to protect, especially at the beginning. So it's good news that he's doing it. Hopefully it is right around the corner, but we'll just have to see how he reacts. The rehab start isn't the key. The key is how he feels the day after the rehab start, if anything else flares up.
Yep, and building him back and getting him into this rotation would be a huge boost to a team that could use it right now. Before we sign off in this edition, just to show you, Jack Curry's great book about the 1998 Yankees is out this week. I know you spoke to Jack for this book.
Oh, I did.
25th anniversary, one of the greatest teams in baseball history. There's some great anecdotes in Jack's book about that, inside that season. And one of the most amusing and kind of, speaks to the competitive nature of this team, Mike, was the epic battles in the clubhouse that Derek Jeter and Scott Brocious would have playing a game called Connect Four. Were you ever witness to their Connect Four battle?
I was. And yes, this is not the Connect Four that everybody played. It's got the little checkers. You drop it in, and both are such great dudes, but extremely competitive. I just said it earlier that it doesn't matter what you're doing. One of the reasons you make it to Major League Baseball is your talent, but the other is just your competitiveness. You don't want to be beaten in any way, shape, or form. Heck, there were times that I heard stories, certain players, they didn't let their kids win because they just simply did. But it was all good natured. It was all fun. And, you get little games like that, flip, whatever it is. And it can get competitive. And there's actually times that, you not between these two, because both of those dudes are so incredibly nice and extremely close friends. But there's sometimes you got to step in that it can get a little bit heat. You're playing a stupid game. It doesn't matter if it's a stupid game. I'm not losing. So, that was there's all kinds of fun little things that happened that year. But we were such a tight-knit group. We had, so many different personalities, all type A personalities. And we had our issues just like everybody else did. But we also got along just tremendously well. And I think it showed up on the field. Even if you did have any issues in the clubhouse, once the bell rang and you went in between the white lines, everybody knew what their job was. And it didn't matter whether you had an argument with somebody or you've been hanging out with them every day. You got a job to do. And that's really what it did. I mean, that was an incredible season. It just seemed like every time we lost, we would go on a 7 or 8 game winning streak. And hence, 114 wins. You're doing that quite a few times.
Right. Have you cleared your calendar for old timers there? I think they're honoring the 98 team in September. So
got it right here. Got it right. I haven't responded
Okay.
yet. I just got it a couple days ago, but I haven't responded yet. But this will be. I'm planning on going unless something happens to the schedule, and this will be my first time back. I have not been.
Really?
I have not been back. Since my retirement. So gosh, I haven't been back. So that would be 2005 was the last time I was actually playing for the Yankees. So it's been a long time.
That's right. Well, if I run into Debbie Timon in the hallway, I'll tell her you're coming and maybe save her postage.
I've got the package right here. I just need to fill it out and send that sucker in.
All right. Sounds good, Mike. All right. So we'll be back next week to recap the Rays series and look ahead. But we're glad you joined us on this edition of Believe in the Bronx. From Mike Stanton, Pete Caldera. We will see you next time.